This is Mary Holbetta's concert report on the Piano Quartet in G minor, Opus 25, composed by Johannes Brahms, orchestrated by Arnold Schoenberg, and performed by the Columbia University Orchestra. Johannes Brahms was a German composer born in 1833 and died in 1897. Brahms started composing at an early age and was greatly influenced by the works of Beethoven, Mozart, and Haydn. While he composed many of his works during the late Romantic period, Brahms readopted classical genres, forms, and styles. He rejected many of the innovations of the earlier Romantics, such as program music and freeform. Instead of composing operas, Brahms composed string quartets, symphonies, and concertos. He maintained a sense of order from classical pieces by sticking to sonata, theme and variation, and rondo forms. Overall, he meshed a rich romantic emotional effect with the traditional fortitude and control of classicism. Arnold Schoenberg was an Austrian-American composer from Vienna who came to America after the Jews were forced to leave Germany when the Nazis gained power. He grew up surrounded by the music of Brahms and Mahler, and even prolonged their late Romantic traditions in his early works. He spent the later part of his life in Los Angeles and taught at UCLA for a short time. Schoenberg was one of the leading composers in the Expressionist movement of music and a part of the Second Viennese School. He had a great influence on the other two members of the Second Viennese School, Anton Webern and Alban Berg. The Expressionists conveyed extreme emotional states in their music that was far more exaggerated than the Romantic period. Expressionism could be thought of as Romanticism taken to the extreme, and it could be said that Schoenberg intensely expresses emotion through grand romantic gestures, so to speak. Brahms Piano Quartet was composed between 1856 and 1861, and premiered in Hamburg in 1861. The original piece called for a violin, a viola, a piano, and a cello. Arnold Schoenberg orchestrated it in 1937, and his orchestration of the piece called for a number of instruments, including 3 flutes, 3 oboes, 1 piccolo clarinet, 2 clarinets, 1 bass clarinet, 3 bassoons, 4 horns, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, a timpani, percussions, and strings. Schoenberg claimed that Brahms' piano quartet was often badly played due to the dominating pianist, which tended to overshadow the strings. So, he made it his goal to bring out the inaudible parts of the quartet in his orchestration. He goes beyond Brahms' quartet and brings in all sections of the orchestra. Schoenberg wanted the entire orchestra to be heard, and not be dominated by one group of instruments. He did so by transposing Brahms' original piece, and by taking motifs from Brahms' quartet and dividing them among the instruments in the orchestra. During the first 3 movements, it is clear that Schoenberg followed the same convention as Brahms, and it isn't until the 4th movement that Schoenberg adds his own touch. The piano quartet is made up of 4 movements and has no sung text. Allegro, the first movement. The 4-note motif introduced in the Allegro becomes the basis of the entire movement and undergoes countless transformations. The first movement features a number of crescendos, decrescendos, a march theme, string trills, and a pizzicato. At times, the tempo slows, but for the most part, it is an allegro. The second movement starts with a warm elegance, light tone color, a brighter mood, and a faster tempo than the first movement. Playful themes move the section along at a relaxed pace. The second movement features imitative polyphony, pizzicato, percussion, a clarinet theme, and is closed out with a playful, light-hearted melody. The third movement is introduced with a radiant and serene mood that moves it along slowly but eloquently. The movement slowly crescendos with polyphony between strings and horns, and a thickening tone color. As the percussion becomes more prominent, the tone color expands, the dynamics get louder, and A feeling of grandiosity envelops the listener. The tempo slows, the tone color diminishes, and the orchestra reverts to the opening theme of the movement, featuring polyphony between the strings and horn melodies. Finally, a light textured string melody surfaces, and a piccolo closes the movement. The fourth and final movement starts with a fiery, fast tempo and in polyphony. The cello players exhibit a technique of tapping their bows on the cello to create a percussive effect and expanding the tone color. Schoenberg's creative orchestration of the xylophone, bells, and cymbals becomes evident in the movement. The fourth movement features Gypsy Rondo, which is a common exotic feature in Brahms's music. It is based on gypsy rhythm phrases, and the beats are accented through tambourines. More and more instruments chime in to create a monumental feeling of grandiosity. The crescendo leads up to an epic climax that has an increasingly fast tempo, strong orchestration, and loud dynamics that give it a modern feel. The climax is the first sense of modernity that is distinct from Brahms' classical quartet. Schoenberg clearly had reverence for Brahms since the finale is the first time he adds in his own take on the piece. Schoenberg's orchestration inverts the chamber music feel of the original and makes it fitting for a concert hall. The tunes are very melodic and are simple enough that they stick with the listener for a bit, and are somewhat song-like, which is a feature retained in Schoenberg's orchestration. Brahms' classical forms remain intact for the most part, except in the final movement. Despite Schoenberg's elaboration in the fourth movement, the work is a fine mix between Brahmsian classicism and 20th century modernism. One thing for certain is that Schoenberg's finale is absolutely his own thing, and is likely to leave the listener in awe of the immense orchestration, far more than the finale of the original quartet.